My last training block went so well, and I'm so happy about it. Ending it with a 530 for 3 squat. It's my old competition best from back in November, so not too long ago, and 540 for 3, which is more than I hit in that competition when I was pulling sumo, but conventional this time around. So, I wanted to talk about the biggest takeaways from the programming that I've been going under and just general tips for what have helped me improve my squat and deadlift in particular so much. Um, Biggest one is being very choosy with my leg accessories. In previous training blocks, I might have had double leg accessories, but I was making half the progress. This time, my main two leg accessories were just a leg press and a belt squat. And I had two assistance ones, which was glute biased RDLs with a dumbbell, so it's not even that heavy. I was maybe using 60 pounds at most, and then leg curls. So that's really all I needed for assistance work to improve my lifts. My squat and deadlift frequency was twice a week, and I started extremely low on my back offs. Um, by the end of the block, I was only doing 412 to 407 pounds for 3 sets of 5 for my squats, and that was enough to allow my top end strength to always be recovered and to maintain that pushing of volume for me to hit that 530 for 3 on squats. So starting very low and being very dropping your ego a lot with your weights for the beginning of the block is a huge takeaway for me. From now on, I'm always going to do that. Always going to start light, even undershoot if I have to that first week to allow my recovery to stack back up. Huge, huge right there. Um, Aside from that is taking my warm-ups a little bit more seriously. Like, I'll be honest, I don't always warm up my mobility as well as I should, but within the actual warm-up sets, I started taking smaller jumps. Because normally I'd take about three warm-ups at most before I just jump straight to my top set. But what my coach wanted me to do this time around was no matter what lift it was, squat, bench, or deadlift, when I was within 20 to 35 pounds of my top set, that's where my last warm up should be, and it should be for half the reps. So, an example would be if I'm going to squat 500 for 3, then my last warm up is going to divide those reps. So, 1.5 reps, we round that up to 2, and it'll be minus 20 to 35 pounds. So, my last warm up might be like 465 for 2, and then I take my top set. And the advantage of that is one, I'm getting a little bit of extra work, but two, it's actually preparing me way better for my top set. And it's very specific to powerlifting because in a meet, those are probably going to be what your jumps will be for most of your lower body lifts or maybe even your upper body lifts, depending on how strong you are. So I really liked that. I think that helped me tremendously. Um, and then another thing that I had in this training program is I actually went down to 4 days per week training, but all of my training was on specific days. It wasn't just day one, two, three, four at 5, and I had to pick each day for myself. It was no, you are going to squat on Monday, do a secondary squat and a primary bench. You are going to do a secondary deadlift on Wednesday. You're going to do on Thursday, secondary bench. On Friday, it's an SBD, primary squat, tertiary bench, and primary deadlift. And having those days staggered in such a way that it optimized my recovery because I was never going in a session back to back where I was fatigued. I think that helped probably more than anything else, to be honest. Um, yeah, I think that's got to be the number one thing that helped. And just in experimenting around with some of my own athletes that I coach, trying to have a good amount of spacing between their training days for those same lifts has seemed to do really well. I actually have one guy who I train who has to do Monday, Tuesday, and then Saturday. So that's not an ideal training split. Um, and I was having him do his primary bench day on Monday and his secondary bench day on Tuesday, but he was never recovered for that secondary bench day. So I switched that to his tertiary bench, and where he's only really doing 3 sets of 3 tempo work. Nothing too crazy, just something to get a little bit extra stimulus, a little bit of recovery, a little bit of technique work in. And just by switching that day with his Saturday, it's allowed his bench to start shooting up. I mean, his progress rate has almost doubled. I mean, he had increased his last block, his bench by 10 pounds, this time by 20. So, huge takeaway right there. Have planned training days and have it make sense for your own recovery. And that might be a little bit different for everybody. Um, then the last tip is just something that I did outside of my training, which was I started taking melatonin like every night. I used to have something against taking a supplement to help you sleep, but it's time tested. There's really no reason not to go for it. I thought that it might be better to let your body do it naturally, but I mean, whatever. I'm doing this for performance, and there's not really any drawbacks. So I just needed to drop my ego and just take melatonin. Drop my ego and just follow the weights that my coach gave me. But those are the things that really helped me improve on my squat and deadlift. Aside from that, my bench, I didn't talk about it much in this video because it didn't go exactly as planned, but we are doing some things to fix it around for my next block that I'm starting, and um, you guys will just have to wait and see, but I think big things are coming on the bench too. All right, peace out, guys.